Love lives here.
Thank you, band. There we go. Thank you, Jabel.
Thank you, Joan Baez.
Yes, thank you, Joan Baez. Yes. So Joan Baez sang that song at the March on Washington in 1963, the same year, at the same event that Martin Luther King delivered his famous I Have a Dream speech. And tomorrow is the day that we celebrate the birthday of Dr. King, even though his birthday is the 15th of January. Here in the United States, we celebrate it on the third Monday of the year. So his last book, the last book that he wrote, I don't know what's going on with all this feedback and stuff, but the last book that he wrote was entitled, Where Do We Go From Here? An apt question, I think. Where do we go from here? And in that book, his opening, or one of his statements, one of the begins a paragraph is, we are now faced with the fact that tomorrow is today. We are now faced with the fact that tomorrow is today. And in this book, in 1967, it was 4 years after the March on Washington, and he was tired. He was a little fed up. He was a little PO'd, perhaps, in the way he wrote this book. He was really calling the United States higher in this book, even more so than what he had been before. Because change was not happening, perhaps, as quickly as what he would have liked, or as what a whole large group of people would have liked. And so he was intentionally calling it out. He was intentionally calling people higher, calling this nation higher. Now, this is 58 years ago. I know because I get to turn 58 this year, because I was born in 67. So it's real easy for me to know how many years ago this was that he was calling us higher. And we have made progress, don't get me wrong. We have absolutely made progress in those 58 years. And yet, here we stand, and tomorrow is today. One of the things that he shares in this book of Where Do We Go From Here is this. One of the great liabilities of history is that all too many people fail to remain awake through great periods of social change. Every society has its protectors of the status quo and its fraternities of the indifferent, who are notoriously sleeping through revolutions. But today, our very survival depends on our ability to stay awake, to adjust to new ideas, to remain vigilant, and to face the challenge of change. So we are into a new year. We are into a new time period. Tomorrow we enter into a new 4-year period of a new president, one that we are familiar with, perhaps, but we are entering into a new period. And this also happens tomorrow, because the 20th of January is the quadrennial tradition of the inauguration of the United States president. And this happens to fall on Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, or the day that we celebrate his birthday. So I invite us not to fall into trading, conversing, not to fall into buying into and bargaining with the currency of fear. Do you hear me, my people? We cannot afford to use the currency of fear to be our mode and our method of exchange and interaction with one another. that does not work, that will not work. We cannot afford to deal in division. We must dare to come together and to advocate and to advance what is right and just. We cannot afford to barter in barbs and insults and negativity and name-calling. We must dare to take a stand and to be heard, to stand up for what is right and just. We cannot afford to engage in the commerce of complacency and hopelessness. We must dare to stay awake. We must dare to dream, as Dr. King talked about. We must dare to have a vision. But we must also dare to take action upon that vision. For a vision or a dream without action, faith without works is dead. In fact, faith without works is not faith, because faith requires action. Faith requires us to embody the principles, to embody that which we know. We cannot afford to reciprocate with retaliation. We must dare to forgive, dare to love, dare to show compassion. We cannot afford to trade in hatred. We must dare to speak truth. We must dare to speak love. We must dare to call each other higher. For as Dr. King said, hatred is too great a burden to bear. We must not use and engage in the currency of fear. We must dare to have the currency and exchange of faith. Ernest Holmes says, faith is a complete conviction that one is able to meet any situation that may arise. Any situation that may arise. We stand in this faith. And what is our faith, beloveds? What is that knowing? What is that embodiment? It is the embodiment of our principles. It is our embodiment of oneness, of unity. It is embodying the triune nature of spirit, that there is spirit, mind, and body, spirit, soul, and form, seed, soil, and plant. That we are the microcosm of the macrocosm, that the way that the universe works, the way that the creative process works, is that we plant an idea, we plant a seed into the creative medium, into the soul, into the universal unconscious. We plant that seed, that idea, into that. And it only can say yes. It has no volition, it has no will of its own, that medium of creation. It simply says yes to that which we are choosing to create. Yes, that which we are choosing to hold high. Yes, that which we declare and proclaim to be the truth with a capital T. It takes it, it receives it, and then it produces. It must demonstrate that which we have put into the soil, that which we have put into the universal consciousness. It has to. It can't choose not to. For we are the microcosm of the macrocosm, meaning that the totality of God, the totality of spirit, everything that spirit is made manifest in, through, and as all of creation, and particularly in, through, and as us, because we are conscious beings. We are at conscious choice. We can take action. We can choose our thinking. We can choose what it is we believe. We can choose how it is that we interact in the world. It's not just animal gut instinct of the reptilian brain that tells us to eat or procreate. Right? We have that frontal lobe that allows us to think, that allows us to be aware of who and what and whose we are. We have the ability to come together, to create together for the good of all. And so this is the faith that we're talking about. It is knowing this faith, standing in this faith, standing in the forgiveness, standing in the abundance, knowing that all that Spirit is, we are. And that Spirit is love. Spirit is oneness. Spirit is peace. Spirit is joy. Spirit is vitality. Spirit is abundance. This is what Spirit is. Spirit is not fear. Spirit is not lack. Spirit is not othering. Spirit is not you versus me. Spirit is not separation. Those things occur when we forget who we are, when we forget what we are. And it is incumbent upon everyone in this room or within the sound of my voice to remember who we are, to remember what it is that we have been brought to this planet, this earth, this time to do, to be the power and the presence of love made manifest through each and every one of us. This is what we are called to do and be. This is what we are called to experience. And anything unlike this must, by nature, fall away back into the nothingness from which it came, because there is no spiritual law to support it, because it is not and cannot be of the divine. And that does not mean that there is separation. That does not mean that there is other. It's simply that we have forgotten. Society has forgotten. Our friends, our neighbors have forgotten. We ourselves have forgotten. So we cannot afford to deal in the economy of fear. We cannot. We must have faith as our currency. Faith in the way that we exchange goods and services. Faith in the way that we exchange love, the way we exchange energy, the way we exchange our breath. Faith in the circulation of life, the rhythm of life, the divine order, the divine natural expression of Spirit itself. This is what we are called to. This is what we are called to anchor into. This is what we are called to remember and to spread and to show and to be out in the world. We cannot afford the economy of fear. So, beloveds, we've already experienced some challenges this year, and we're only 19 days in, right? We're only 19 days in. There will be more challenges ahead. There will be. But we can greet them, we can meet them from a place of knowingness, from a place of resiliency, rather than a place of hopelessness. We're called to greet them from a place of principle. We're called to greet them by staying awake. As Frank says, wake up. Right? You look at the meerkats there. Notice how alert they are. Look at them all looking in different directions because they are collective. They are a group. They are naturally social animals that look out for one another. They are paying attention to all sides. Look how they're all so cute. But look how they're just looking at other places, right? They're aware, they're awake, and they're resilient. They're resourceful, and that is what we get to be as well. So, when I say being resilient, resourceful, how do you come back to center when you get knocked off center, when you get knocked off that God spot? That center of Spirit. How do you resource? How do you recenter? Be thinking about that. How do you recenter? Because if you get knocked off your God spot and you start swirling in the fear, All you're doing is you're participating in the co-creation of more fear, of more anger, of more hatred, of more division. We can't afford that. We cannot afford that. So here are some ways that you might consider. Your word of the year. You have your stone. You got your stone 2 weeks ago. You got your word 2 weeks ago, right? Carry that with you. Use that, like I mentioned, as a touchstone. Literally touch it to help return to center. It is your rock, right? How then can you fulfill this word this year? What is your vision for the year? Not just the global vision for Centers for Spiritual Living, though that's good too. What is your word, your vision for this year? Come back and touch that vision. You also have the global vision. I shared on your tables this morning. There is Reverend Raymond Anderson's draft of the global vision written in active terms, so that it's not just a vision, that there is actually action there. There's enough for everybody. So feel free to take them home with you. Okay? But it's there. Use this, refer to it, come back to it. If you are sitting there going, I don't know what to do, look at this list. There are plenty of items and opportunities for you to take action based on this list that are in alignment with the global vision for Centers for Spiritual Living, which is we create a world that works for everyone in all of creation. It's available to you. Refer back to it. Come back to it. Come back to the principles. Come back to the 10 core concepts. Come back to the declaration of principles. Come back, come back, come back. Meditate. Spiritual mind treatment, prayer. Get into service. Serve others. If you're really feeling some kind of way, come see a practitioner. That's what they're there for. They're there to help walk you through, to help remember the truth of who you are when it's so hard for you to remember it yourself. They're also there to celebrate with you when you do remember who you are, and amplify and magnify that which you are. So, where do we go from this moment here, right now? We're going to go to tables. We're going to go to tables. And you have 3 questions there this week. Your table questions for the week are, what is your vision for this year? What action will you take this week to move toward your vision? And what do you do to center and recenter yourself? So these are prompts for you to go with. If you don't like those, but you want to talk about something related to what we're talking about today, go for it. But these are the prompts for today. So we're going to break the tables and you'll have time. If you are joining us online there at home, then Reverend Sanja will see you in the Zoom room right now. The Zoom room is open and you can join Reverend Sanja for a discussion in the Zoom room. So here we go and go. All right, beloveds. So we have the opportunity this week to stay awake. Stay awake. All right? So you're going to take that which you have identified as the way you center, and I know this table over here didn't get a chance to talk about that, but I know that you know how to center yourselves. You're going to take that and you're going to practice it. You're going to intentionally practice that this week. Not just like when you get blown off center, then come back. No. You're building the muscle. You're building the resilience. You are building it now to take to center yourself, because if you stay centered, you ain't got to get centered, right? So stay awake. And in the words of Howard Thurman, another beloved, keep fresh before me the moments of my high resolve. Despite the dullness and barrenness of the days that pass, if I search with due diligence, I can always find a deposit left by some former radiance. But I had forgotten. At the time, it was full-orbed, glorious, and resplendent. I was sure that I would never forget. In that moment of its fullness, I was sure it would illumine my path for all the rest of my journey. I had forgotten how easy it is to forget. There was no intent to betray what seemed to be sure at the time. My response was whole, clean, authentic. But little by little, there crept into my life the dust and grit of the journey. Details, lower-level demands, all kinds of cross currents. Nothing momentous, nothing overwhelming, nothing flagrant, just the wear and tear. If there had been some direct challenge, a clear-cut issue, I would have fought to the end and beyond. In the quietness of this place, surrounded by the all-pervading presence of God, my heart whispers, keep fresh before me the moments of my high resolve, that in fair weather or foul, in good times or in tempests, in the days when the darkness and the foe are nameless or familiar, I may not forget that to which my life is committed. Keep fresh before me the moments of my high resolve. And so it is. Wake up! And let's come together in consciousness. Recognizing here and now that there simply is just this one life that is expressing itself so beautifully, so perfectly, so magnificently, so gloriously in, through, and as all of creation, but it is not absorbed by its creation. It is life, it is love, it is joy, it is that peace that passes all understanding. It is divine right order, divine right action, perfect harmony and equanimity. It is balance, and it is the music, the rhythm of life that is the undercurrent that speaks to the soul, that is love, expressing in, through, and as itself. It is an ever-abundant, regenerative, generative, and generous giving of life and love itself. And I recognize that the very who of who I am, the very who of who each one is, the very who of all of life, the what of all of life, is this one life in magnificent, glorious expression. It is the one love. And so I recognize that we here gathered this day stand in faith. We stand in love. We stand in unity, in oneness, recognizing that we are the co-creators of our world, of our universe. That we accept the mantle of responsibility to be the power and the presence of light and love in the world. That we offer love, we offer compassion generously. We recognize that forgiveness and gratitude are part of the path that we are invited to walk this day. We keep fresh before us the moments of high resolve. We keep fresh before us the dream, the vision, and we say yes to it. And we say yes to that which we have been called to do. We say yes to anchoring that word that was revealed to each one of us, to bringing that into greater fruition, greater expansion, greater beingness, for the benefit not only of ourselves, but the benefit of all. For truly, we envision a world that works for everyone in all of creation, and we accept our part in that, making it happen, being the place where Spirit shows up and shows out. And we commit this day to staying awake and standing in faith, to living the principles. And so I simply give thanks for this day. I give thanks for this congregation. I give thanks for the life, the love, and the beauty that is. And I release this word now, knowing it is done and fulfilled. I let it be, and so it is. So I invite everyone to please stand. And let's say this affirmation together. It's nice and short. It'll be easy for you to remember this week. I stand in faith. Make me believe it. Yes. Something wonderful is happening through me right now. It is this thing called love. Love is in my mind. Love is in my body. Love is in everything I do. I am it. I share it. I receive it. And I move love forward because love lives here. Let's sing it. Happy Sunday.